welcome to another episode of Mental Odyssey. If you've listened to the other episodes so far in this season, then you will know that I am asking my loved ones questions that I've been pondering to see what their feedback is. So on this week's episode, I am joined by my wonderful mom, my birth giver, my Mammo. If you don't know what that means, stay tuned. You will soon. Thanks for joining us today. Let's hop right into it. Well, hello, Mammo.
You got in your normal voice.
Mammo.
This is my Mammo. Explain why I'm Mammo and not Mama.
Yeah. Autocorrect. Autocorrect is the reason.
I was texting my mom one day and I'm like, I love you, Mama.
And it autocorrected to Mammo.
And it came out Mammo and we both laughed out loud.
And it's stuck.
Mammo ever since.
Yep. Well, thank you for being on here. I have a question to ask you. So I want to know, because of my recent experience with rejection, how, in your experience, would you handle rejection?
I don't do well.
No. Tell me more.
You need to turn that off for a minute. We need to practice.
No, we're going. It's happening. Just let it flow. We're not being recorded.
Have I handled rejection? I crawl up in a little ball and okay, here's the crazy thing. I was listening to an audiobook once, The Untethered Soul.
Okay.
By Michael A. Singer. And he's actually got a chapter on that about fear of rejection. And as I was listening to it, I was driving in the car for a few hours. And so it wasn't like I could just, pause and fast forward. But as soon as he started talking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm good. And immediately within the next couple minutes, as he's describing this fear of rejection, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me. I grew up with this fear of rejection without a label, without knowing what it was, but literally like showing up as my unauthentic self because of my fear of rejection. And I literally laughed. I laughed out loud, where I'm just like, who knew?
Not you until then.
My conscious is like, no, I'm good. And my subconscious is like, no, you're not.
We're scared.
But what was cool is once it came to light, once it was there and I was aware of it, I started seeing it showing up. I started to see in my relationships, my unhealthy relationships, of how to give my power away to these people, where I look back and I'm like, they so didn't deserve that.
Yeah. They
didn't earn that.
But you were just so afraid of being rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it clearly was the stepping stone of me starting to step into my power. Start seeing where I was giving my power away. And as I was taking it back, it wasn't like a drastic movement, but I would see that people would start seeing changes, and then I would witness their reaction, however they chose to receive it. Some people were celebrating, other people would push back, but it really defined more of who I was and the kind of relationships that were important to me. So instead of giving myself to everybody, thinking, oh, everyone has they all get a chance. They all deserve a little bit of me, where I passed so much of me around that I had nothing for myself. And as I started taking that back, I was actually more confident. I had more to give to the people that were important to me.
Right, because you're not expending all this extra energy on people that are not filling your cup.
Exactly. And in me doing that, then I was able to be more calm and
Mm-hmm.
open to receiving what they had to give to me.
I'm like thinking about it because there's something pretty profound in that as you were as you were describing it. I was thinking about it and I was like, what is the other side of rejection? Like, if you have a fear of rejection, what does that in turn, like, what do your actions look like while you're doing that? And I feel like it's a lot of like validation seeking. A lot of like I'm not good enough unless if these people recognize me or this thing, like I'm recognized. And I think a lot of it comes from the voices that we keep in our heads from like our parents. Like it starts from getting a consistent reaction out of your parents, right? Where it's like you can start assuming how they would react to a situation based on past experience. And then that voice is like built into your head until you like consciously take it out.
I think that's all relationships.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anybody that's important to you, like once you can start assuming their reaction and you care about their reaction, which when you have a fear of rejection, you care about almost everybody's reaction.
Yeah. It might be unconscious, but you're
Yes.
definitely assessing. You're
Yeah.
constantly assessing. This is acceptable. This is not acceptable. I can release when I'm doing this. I need to coil when I'm doing this. You know, I need to shrink down so that they don't know that.
Right.
I mean, you know, it really comes down to authentic and randomly unauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
The sad thing is that I'm guessing not everyone is conscious to this. And I'm assuming that my parents didn't realize how their influence reacted on me
Right.
and how I received that. And then from what I was, you know, taught, then I repeated that pattern
Mm-hmm.
as a mother to my children. I mean, I love that I know something different now so that I can actually show up differently with them and for them
Right.
and for me, where we can literally find a win-win
Mm-hmm.
in it all. But I think our fears, our own fears, cause us unconsciously to behave in a way that might not be in alignment with our authentic self.
Right. Right. So it sounds like your answer would be stepping into your authentic self.
The more that people can understand what that means,
Mm-hmm.
really feel it means, I think they can show up as something different. I have gotten to the point where it's like, I really want to be able to pay forward the good things that I've been able to feel.
Mm-hmm.
If I can show up this way and I can improve the life of another person in that moment, you know, that's my hope. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's to them how they want to receive it, and it's based on what their programming is.
Right.
I never received hugs and I love yous. I was 18 years old before I was actually taught by one of my girlfriends how to hug. The first time I went to hug her, it was like distant. It was a little pat on the back. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "That was my definition of a hug." And then she showed me. She's like, "No, if you're going to hug, you need to embrace. You wrap your head around the other person's head.
Yeah, you mean it.
And then the other thing, I always hugged on the left side. And the first time that someone hugged me on the right, actually a heart-to-heart hug, my response was, why did you hug me the wrong way? And they, just like you, they laughed and they're like, that's a heart-to-heart hug. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're like, it's so different.
A whole nother universe opened up. Because where does our feeling really come from? Where does that hurt? When we're hurting, where does that hurt? Your hand immediately goes over your heart. You can feel it. It hurts right here. And when you can exchange loving energy from one heart to another, that's a totally different exchange. And I love introducing that to people and seeing what their reaction is.
Right. Being able to like show that to them.
How many people go, why did you hug me the wrong way?
Right. Not many.
I actually encounter more than I'm surprised. But the cool thing is when they do react the way that I first reacted, then I get introduced to them. That was a heart-to-heart hug. We always have a choice when we go to hug people. Do we get awkward? Do we want to make it memorable?
See, I'm kind of specific about I love yous. Because, like, to me, if you don't put the I before it, you didn't mean it. Like, own it. Like, if I say I love you and you say love you too, it's like, just own that shit, you know?
Right.
Put the I in front of it.
I'm totally on board with you.
Right.
There's something about the conscious and the subconscious that just rejects that.
Yeah, and it's like I can go back and refilter that reaction and be like, you know what? Like, it's not that deep. They probably just don't think about it the way that I do, you know? But there is that subconscious thing where it just happens. It is rejected. You know, I have to go pick it back up if I want to keep on to it because it's just like not genuine. That's how I've like received it or seen it.
And the best part of knowing and thinking at a different level is it's not about the person delivering the I love you. I mean, if they're truly sincere about using the I love you, and the other person is like, love you too, they're not in the conscious education of truly feeling that.
Yeah.
They might be able to receive that. It might be too much.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure.
And then you have the people that don't repeat it at all. Okay, thank you.
Or the you too.
Yeah. You too. Yeah.
You
exactly.
too.
You too. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out though.
Yeah.
Because the I is very powerful.
It is. It is. And it doesn't take that long. It's not a long word.
No, but it has power.
It does. It's owning it.
It's a transfer of power.
Yeah.
It's a transfer of energy. And when they respond, love you too, it's almost like it hits a wall.
It does. Yeah.
And then it just falls to the ground. It's just like, okay, well. But then how are you, then it comes back to us. How do I want to interpret that? Do I want to use my conscious energy of going, oh my gosh, they just rejected that?
Right.
Or do I have, loving energy where it's like, unfortunately, they don't know.
Yeah. Or they met me where they could,
Yeah.
That's where they're at. I think as you're saying that, it brings me to thinking about like Nan and Pop and talking about God. For a really long time after I lost my relationship with God, I would get pissed off every time that they said something about it. Like every time, because I was just like, you don't get it. You don't get that I don't have that relationship anymore. Like, you bringing it up is actually just making it more hurtful for me, you know? But I got to a place where I could see where their intention is. And like they believe in God enough for the both of us, you know? And if I can receive that from where they're sending it from instead of where it lands, you know, like if I can take it and know that there's positive intention and lots of love and care behind what they're saying to me, then I don't have to like reject it.
What I like to do as people talk about God is my label, my alternate label of that is a higher power, because
Right.
I truly believe in a higher power. I believe in the law of attraction, and
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we're just using different labels.
Right. Yes.
In passion, as I believe in a higher power, I trust in a higher power. I really want that higher power to come, through for me.
Right.
It's their label.
You just put a
Because
different name on it.
yeah, 10 years ago, when people would use the word God, oh my gosh, I would go into this whole hysteria. I took a class and there was a whole workbook that was all Christian based.
Ugh, roll
And
my
like
eyes.
God and Christ and blah, blah, blah. And, hey, sign on this dotted line that you agree with this. And I literally obliterated with a Sharpie pen that book, and I rewrote it into the words that work for me. But ultimately, it truly is just, bottom line, trusting in something more, something bigger.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone's going to label things of what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of rejecting what another person sees, just find the parallel of the essence of what they're talking about and find where it works for you,
Yes.
so that you can have a meeting of the energy.
Exactly.
Was that the only question?
No. So I have another question. Thank you for your answer, by the way. I can relate to the things that you said with just checking out and getting small, and it's way better to not be there. It's way better to like step into the space that you are allowed as a person, you know.
Well, and I love
So,
that you truly did assist me in being able to see something more. So thank you.
of course. I'm happy to do it. Okay, so the next question, what is the antidote to loneliness?
That is a great question, Sarah. Thank you for asking me. I have to tell you, I used to have extreme loneliness, and the best gift that I was given in the last 10 years of my life was to feel that loneliness and truly, in the space of being alone, finding the value of that loneliness.
Mm,
And I know that's not quite explainable, but it was only through my loneliness and feeling what I initially felt and being conscious to that and being sensitive to that, realizing that I cannot rely on other people to make me feel one way or another. It's ultimately up, up to me. And with that, I started stretching with the opportunities that I had to go to restaurants by myself, to be able to sit there by myself. And that was before the cell phones, before the smartphones, before the distractions. There's so many people that, you know, if they're sitting alone, they're constantly on their phone, so they're not alone.
Right.
And I had the opportunity to just sit there and actually see other people, witness interactions of other people,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that I'm okay. I'm okay doing things by myself.
Right.
It wasn't immediate, but it eventually got me to the point where it was really empowering, because it's like, if I can do this and be okay, what else can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And certain relationships then don't have to define whether I'm worthy or not, whether I'm lovable or not. My negative core belief growing up was that I was unlovable. And I think with that playing in the background, it's easy to feel lonely.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go out and you realize that you're truly not alone, you might just be, sitting in a space without someone else, connecting with you. You have an opportunity to see something more in other people and just kind of witness, not necessarily the conversations, but the energy, the body language. I mean, there's so much more out there than we really see. What's out there beyond the frame of what our eyes are directly looking at?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, it's like you don't need an antidote to loneliness, you need a new perspective on it.
Yeah, I don't need another person to make me not feel lonely.
Right. Because it's not
You
going to
can
happen.
still be you could still be lonely in a relationship with another person,
Absolutely. Yeah.
to the ultimate extreme.
Yeah.
It really is based on the perspective that and the label that you put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're
Yeah.
open to put that down so you can see something more, it's amazing what more you can see, what more you can feel, what more you're open to.
It's interesting because it's like you need deep connection, but nobody said that that deep connection can't be with yourself.
Exactly.
Like, I think a lot of people will go out of their way to be in social situations because they're craving connection. They're trying to turn off loneliness, where it's like the solution to loneliness could just be in like, this is not a problem that needs to be solved. This is a feeling that I'm feeling that's trying to teach me something.
I think it's also, I agree, and it's also the giving rather than the getting.
Mm-hmm.
When you can truly transition to giving and receiving, that totally takes it to a totally other level that
Mm-hmm.
not everyone is conscious of.
Yeah, it's a
When
really
I
good
go to
thing.
church, I'm not a church going person at this point. But when I choose to go to church, whether it's, I mean, it doesn't matter what the denomination is. When I go into a place of gathering for a specific purpose, I go for a singular purpose of twofold. My only purpose is to go to give love and to receive love.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to buy into the the doctrines
Right.
or,
Right. It's
you
just
know,
to
um,
absorb the
everyone's
energy.
talking about. It's just, I want to give positive energy. I want to receive positive energy and to truly assist in that flow.
That's
Not to be
beautiful.
open to get my feelings hurt or,
Yeah.
to buy into someone else's opinion. It's just like, it's okay. All of us have the right to think how we want to think, to feel how we want to feel. And if I can assist in giving something more to a, in a good way
Mhm.
and be able to receive that back, man, in my book, that's an amazing win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That was beautiful. So I have two more questions for you. The next one is, how did you pick your career?
In a way, my career picked me. I don't know. It goes back to high school. It goes back to maybe because I didn't necessarily want to take that class, but I really liked the teacher, and I could see that, the teacher could use a little bit of assistance. And in my high school, we could only have two electives of being a teacher's aide or working in the school office. I started out in the attendance office and I would listen to the recordings of the parents or the children pretending to be the parents, excusing their children's absence,
Mhm.
and write that down. But I was actually invited and was able to be given the um, the credit of actually being a teacher's aide in 4 different periods or um, whatever the category was.
Mhm.
Where normally it would just be, for two electives, I actually got to use 4 electives for that.
That's very
But I got
cool.
really good at taking care of someone who was in, a more powerful position and truly assisting them in being more successful.
Mhm.
And at 19, I had signed up with a temp agency wanting to do that for someone. And I just happened to get an opportunity to do that with a millionaire that had his own business. And I started working with him. And 19, I mean, for a lot of people, that's young. A lot of adults. I mean, he was in his 50s at the time, and he said that he had never had someone as young as me working as his assistant. But he said if I was willing to be open and willing and have the skill and use those skills, that he would literally train me how to be a perfect match to support him. And so I did that for 3.5 years until I ended up moving to another state. And that was kind of the start of my career. But it also goes back to high school where I was actually a teacher's aide for the director of the business department in my
Oh,
high school.
wow.
And she saw the qualities in me that I didn't even know.
Aw.
And she actually, I guess in a way, I wasn't even conscious to it, but she helped me be able to see my gifts that I brought to the table, and
Mhm.
she taught me enough where I was confident to, do something more with that. And here I am now, an older adult with a few years under my belt, and I love that I can show up, and I've had many years at assisting other people and being successful. I recently was an event manager for a weekend event that I helped put together. And I just love being able to support people that love to get up in front of everyone else. And I'm able to, I'm really good at managing everything, you know, in the background. I'm that
Right.
running up that never closes. I always got people's back. I'm always looking for something more. I'm always, right there to say, hey, I got you. I'm your cheerleader. What can I do for you? How can I serve you best? That's where my strengths are.
That's really cool that it was realized in you at such a young age by an influential adult like that. Like, also, it helps that they're not close. Because, like, if you heard that from your mom, it would probably be really nice. It would probably be nice to hear that. But you would probably also be like, that's just my mom. Like, hearing it from somebody that, like, does that, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I am special in this. You know, you're able to, like, believe in yourself.
I think one of my best core values is loyalty. I'm extremely loyal
Mm,
to those that serve.
right.
That- and even my current job right now, I just finished a week of 61 and a half hours of legit working. And I would keep doing it as long as my body would allow because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm not one of those where it's like, oh, it's the end of the day. Everything can wait till tomorrow. We're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Right.
So it's always about what can I do today? What can I get accomplished today? And sometimes maybe the priorities a little bit messed up.
You're like, I might be a little bit of a problem.
I might give more power to my job than I do to my relationship. But, it's amazing when you're good at what you do and you love it.
Yeah, and you
And
feel fulfilled from it, a sense of purpose.
there's this infinite energy that comes from that.
Yeah.
And caffeine also helps.
Yes.
But at the end of the
The
day, when I fill up
espresso.
my cup at the beginning of the day and I still have half of it left at the end of the day, that whatever it is you were doing was satisfying.
Right. Right. When you don't need the pick me up throughout the day,
Mhm.
you can just do it.
Yep. It's like, okay, that's part of my routine. But when I'm on a roll, when I have, I love the momentum that just keeps going and going and going. That's the natural energy. You can't make that happen. You can't just, cause that to happen. It's either there or it isn't.
Right.
And that my body continues to cooperate with me. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it says, no, not today.
Yeah.
Okay, I love you. I'll stop.
Right.
And that piggybacks on what was the question again?
How did you pick your career?
Oh, yeah.
It picked
I
you.
guess yeah. I was gonna say, I guess in a way it picked me.
That's awesome. I relate to so much of what you said because I can see myself doing the same thing. I mean, I am your daughter, so I very much find that same like sense of accomplishment by helping somebody in like a higher power position. Because like
It's just seeing what a little bit of validation will do.
right, right. Like I just need a pat on the back. You don't have to like scream about it, but like if you just tell me when I'm doing something well,
Yeah.
like, oh, like that's all I need.
Acknowledge what I'm doing well and I will do more of that.
Right, right, because I like feeling like I'm doing well.
Don't just tell me what I'm doing wrong. Let me know what
Yes.
I'm doing right. And then I will be open to feedback on things that I can adjust
Right.
and, work on being better at.
Yeah,
For
I need
people
like I need
open for
a I need a ratio that's like super heavy on the positive side. Like I need to be reassured on like a more consistent basis, right? Because every single day that I go to work, I'm trying my hardest. Like every single day. So if I hear it like once every month or month and a half at my job where it's like, "Hey, you did a really good job." Like that's like 50, 60 days that are spent just like working really hard with no recognition. You know? Like it's nice
And
to
that's
just
great.
like see the person that you're in like in a closer environment like what you're doing where you're like an assistant to people and they see what you're doing and they're going to like thanks for getting that done, you know, on a consistent basis. It's like, yeah, I could keep doing that.
Well, and also validating. You do not have to stay past normal hours. And with that said, I so appreciate you. And I really want you to know that you have a choice.
Right.
And whatever you choose, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see you. I appreciate you.
Right. Right. It's so important.
Because when you see people and you appreciate people, oh my gosh, it pulls out stops. That has probably been permanent for a long time.
Right. And some people, like, if you ask them, hey, would you like validation? I'm sure that a lot of people that need validation would turn it down because they don't know what that looks like. Like, Tom, when we first got together, he had no idea what validation looked like to him. Even now, like, we're still learning different ways that I can validate him because this is the first time that anyone's ever been curious about, like, going out of their way to validate him and appreciate him deeply for what he does. So I think there's a lot of people like him that would just like turn it down if you were asked, "Hey, do you need validation or do you want validation?" Like a lot of the times it just has to be given. Or you learn like now I know that I need to ask for validation and I do. I do ask for it when I'm feeling like I need it. But it's hard to get there. It's a transition. It took a lot of
And
time.
I think with me, I appreciate it, but I don't necessarily need it anymore because I have, more years on you. I know
Right.
what
Yeah.
I know what I bring to the table.
Mhm.
And, it's great if people see it, but I don't need them to necessarily see it. I just don't want them reacting on me.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, the hardest part is when they don't see it or they see something else or they're motivated by something else. So like I appreciate it, so I'm going to continue to give 110% until it's unappreciated. If it's unappreciated, then that's a whole nother ball game
Right.
because it's one of those I see you, and because I see you, I'm doing this for you.
Mhm.
So it's both ways. I have an
Yeah.
amazing boss who's the owner of the company, and thank goodness he knows how to handle himself. I mean, that's the talent, you know, because not everyone's like that.
Mhm.
I've just been blessed by having really great leaders that see something in me that's obviously in them. They wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to see it if it wasn't in them.
Yeah.
And I take their strengths and I try to mirror it. And I love helping other people be successful because it makes me feel successful.
Mhm.
And with that, I don't necessarily need the words because the feeling's there.
Right.
It's mutual, it's
Right.
reciprocated. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. you
Right.
know,
I feel like that's so true. Like in the lack of reciprocation, you need the words. But if you're getting reciprocation, you don't need the words. The words are just like an added bonus.
and there are different love languages.
Right.
And for me, one of those is words of affirmation. Now,
Yes.
maybe not necessarily from everybody,
Yeah, but
but
from the people that you need it from.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's definitely the ones, that I want to hear it so
Right.
that I know that I'm on the right path, that I'm,
Mm-hmm.
doing something in alignment with what they appreciate me doing.
Yeah. For the people that
And I
you
think,
like prioritize a relationship
yeah,
with.
feedback is an amazing thing.
It is. It is.
Effective feedback, quality
Yes.
feedback, loving feedback
Right.
from of good energy.
Yeah. Feedback that like hits the spot, or if it doesn't, like there's room for conversation about it.
I mean, if you get the feedback, maybe you're just not cut out for this.
Right.
That's
Right.
not effective feedback.
What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
But here's the thing. What I do with feedback that I realize is not necessarily feedback for me is I get a chance to pause and think, what is more true? Maybe they're not cut out. Use the
Right.
same way. When you're pointing at someone, there's one finger pointing and three coming back at you. Could it be more true that it's about the other person?
Right.
And I don't necessarily have to own anything that's not in alignment with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, if they're seeing it in me, it's in them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to receive that and take it on.
Right. I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time separating. Like
That's the best part.
I think that like
But,
authenticity doesn't come naturally for me.
well, I think it does.
Like in my close relationships it does, but I try like in all of my relationships I try really fucking hard. Like it doesn't come naturally, you know? Like obviously I have the skills now to be able to be effective, but like it's hard. It's something that I work at, you know? Like it's
Well, that comes full circle into the fear of rejection.
mhm.
There's an unconscious fear, but the more that you realize all the things that you bring to the table and you stop giving your power away to people that don't recognize that and don't
Right.
appreciate, as long as you know that you're doing your very best and you're open to doing something more that works for you and the other person,
Yeah.
and you get to be where you're okay with that, that eliminates the fear of rejection, that eliminates
Mhm.
loneliness, or at least helps it subside.
Mhm.
It's just, ultimately, it's being confident in what you choose to do and being present to it, being aware and conscious of it, instead of just operating on autopilot or from your subconscious and letting your subconscious take over. If there's
Mhm.
head that are arguing, you know, maybe that's in your subconscious.
Right. Right.
I've been a witness of that for years. And thankfully, I've been able to, for the most part, move from that. Where
Mhm.
now when the voices come in, I just kind of laugh. I'm like, really? You're choosing to talk behind my back? I hear you. I can choose to say something more, or just go, okay, well, good to know that you feel that way. And ultimately, I'm in control of me.
Right. And
It
only
comes down
you.
to
It's
control.
the
Does
only
it come
thing.
down to control?
I mean, it's part of perfectionism, so probably.
Okay.
Probably.
We only know what we know.
Exactly. Exactly. So the last question is how is it to be in a long-term relationship?
Well, I can't say I've had many long term relationships, but what I have learned in the ones that are valuable and important to me is ultimately it's about finding that friendship, that connection, the things that you resonate with another person, whether it's your best girlfriend or your best um, opposite sex friend that just has your back, or, just I love it when there's that resonation of I see you,
Right.
I got you,
Yes.
I'm here for you, and
Where you don't have to
there's
worry about it. It's not like you know that they're going to be there.
ultimately it comes down to authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Am I able to be authentic, and am I reciprocating the authenticity, letting them be authentic, celebrating them for whatever they bring to the table? We're not all the same. And there's the saying, opposites attract. There's certain things that we desire in other people. What are our strengths, and another person, might not have those strengths, but they have other strengths
Mm-hmm.
that support maybe things that you're not as strong in. The thing I love about my husband is I really don't like to cook. I
Mm-hmm.
need to eat every day.
Amen.
And he's found the joy of cooking and creating, and I love trying things. I love celebrating him for his efforts, and I'm so thankful for what he brings to the table. I have my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
My are in finance. I take care of both of us. I make sure that we stay in the green rather than the red. And we both have our strengths that we bring to the table. But
Mm-hmm.
we were best friends before we ever took it to the next level.
Yeah, that's important.
I love to be able to, talk to about the people that truly are my best friends, the ones that I have found that connection, that loyalty, that unconditional love
Mm-hmm.
that I have. I mean, what's your definition of a relationship?
Right.
There,
Right.
there's many different kinds of relationships. I love the relationship that I have with you
Right.
and with Timothy. I mean, the
Absolutely.
relationships that we value are the ones that we
Put energy into.
put
Yeah.
energy into, and it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And I love my friends that it can be weeks, months, years since we've talked, but those ones when you pick up the phone or you run into and you immediately connect like no time has passed,
Right.
those are the friendships that I value the most. It's like always
Absolutely.
constantly in your heart. I mean, I feel like I have a whole bunch of compartments in my heart. Many people have a piece of my heart, and I
Mm-hmm.
still have more to go around. But the ones that truly have a piece of my heart will always have a piece of my heart until
Mm-hmm.
they break it.
Right. Right.
And then I move on. But I do. I have a lot of relationships that I would consider extremely valuable to me. And, some of them aren't on a, a constant communication basis, but they know who they are.
Right.
They know they know what they mean to me, and I know what I mean to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
love that. I love that I have those relationships. I love that I've been able to create those relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're so important. Having close relationships is so important, no matter how they're defined. I mean,
Hmm.
without Ashley and Shaylee, like being so incredibly steady in my life, Like, I don't know who I'd be. You know, like, I always have a place to go back to. I always have a place to like touch in with them. It's so important. And we've seen each other grow so much.
Mhm.
We knew each other as just kids,
Well, and it hasn't been a constant either.
right?
But when you go back, I mean, with Shaylee, you guys were in second grade together,
Yep.
and then there was distance, and then you were back in fifth grade together. I
Mhm.
mean, whatever the journey is, it connects you.
Yep.
But what it is, it comes down to a conscious choice on both ends.
Mhm.
When I look back, I had a time where I was estranged from all my relationships because of the circumstance that I was in at the time. And I really had time to think about the valuable friendships that I had in the past that maybe I didn't give enough quality energy to.
Mm.
And what were the qualities in that relationship that I missed? And what's something that I would like to create in the future, either with that person or with someone else?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because we're always changing. Revisiting a friendship might not always be the same as what you remember it to be. You know,
Absolutely.
people grow, people move on, people connect and disconnect.
Mhm.
It really comes down to, at the end of the day, what resonates with me? What are
Mhm.
my values in a friendship or a relationship, and just really, working and defining that. And ultimately, I think it does just come down to authenticity. And the more you understand yourself, the more you're able to be open to allow someone else to be themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyone who's listening to this, if you don't know the definition of authenticity, look it up, research it.
Hold on, I'll look it up right now. That way you can say
I,
if you agree with the way that
I,
that
did,
the
I didn't know anything about that until I was a pre adult.
Okay, let's see. Authenticity is a noun. It is the quality or condition of being authentic, trustworthy, or genuine. So let's look up authentic. Authentic is conforming to fact and therefore worthy of trust, reliance, and belief. Being so, in fact, not fraudulent or counterfeit. Executed in a manner so as to produce legal effectiveness. I like the authenticity one better.
Let's get into the legalities of everything.
Right.
Not.
No.
So it really does come down to authenticity. If you're
Right.
authentic, then they're authentic with
Being
you.
genuine. Let's see what genuine is. The definition of that is.
I like
Genuine, actually possessing the alleged or apparent attribute or character.
when I say I got your back, that's me being invested in you as much as I'm invested in me.
Right. Right. It's a deep love. It's a deep care
Hmm.
and priority.
And I think there's a certain energy in relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, you can meet someone for the first time and you have an immediate connection, and it's like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? I mean, out of the ordinary. It's like, I don't want to let this one go.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
the more relationships that you move in and out of, the more you recognize the diamonds, whether they're in the rough or
Mhm.
not.
Yeah. No, it's
And maybe
interesting.
they
Like,
just need to be polished a little bit more.
right. Right. Like some of the people that I've like immediately clicked and connected with, it was like, who did I meet them as? Because that was not how I expected it to go. You know, like it's interesting. The people that you click with aren't always the people that you should be having in your life. You know, sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I should work on that. maybe I shouldn't be connecting to people like this.
You know, some of the relationships that I cherish the most have come out of the most interesting situations, but ultimately the common denominator has been me.
Right. And the importance you put into it.
Showing up as my highest and best authentic self.
Yeah.
And it's easy to attract a lot into your space when you're like that. But the ones that truly resonate, that aren't the ones of sucking energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, if it's real, it's going to show up.
Exactly.
They're going to, you know, you might not see them, but they'll see you and they'll make themselves known.
Absolutely.
And then it gives you a choice whether you want to pursue that or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it when I'm in that space. It's amazing.
I totally agree. Oh, well, this is nice. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for answering my questions and having this conversation. It's always fun to learn more about you.
I'm one of your biggest fans.
Yes.
Not just because you're my DNA, but because of the amazing person that you are. And, you know, I don't take credit for any of it. I just think that you were born with some amazing gifts, and I've witnessed it ever since you were little. And obviously we've had our conversations about that, but I love the person who you are. I love that you continue to show up as that highest and best authentic self, that it took me so long. I didn't learn about that till I was in my 40s. And, you know, here you are in your 20s and you're rocking it. And
thank you.
Anyone who's listening to this is lucky.
You stumbled on the right podcast.
Keep listening. Sarah's got more for you.
Right. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know you're my number one biggest fan. I can feel the energy from here.
And your second number one, outside of maybe your husband, is your Nana.
Yes. Yeah, it's absolutely Nana. I get to interview her this morning, too, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, send us all the links.
Absolutely. I think I'm trying to decide if I have to do it in separate podcasts so that Dan and Pop can listen to the one that they're on. Because not all of the conversations are going to be something they want to listen to. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I love you so much. And I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Please take videos at the Brett Young concert for me. Because I am there in spirit. I'm going to be living vicariously through you.
All right. I'll do an extra squirrel for you.
Yay. All right. I love you, Mom. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.